Stan Zir, like so many of us out here, grew up in New York, in Manhattan in particular, owned his own business selling medical supplies. He's a writer now for Renew America and for the Israeli National News. His main website is scrapthedeal.com. Tonight he'll be speaking mainly on the Iranian deal that President Obama agreed to not too long ago, that is fraught with great trouble. So with that, would you please welcome Stan Zir?
Well, first of all, let me get my clock here so I don't forget. Thank you for inviting me here. Peter, I mentioned to Peter what I was doing. I think Peter knows Pat, and I know Pat. I'm a member of the West End Republican Club, and very proud to be a member of that group. They're a good group of people, and they stand up for what they believe in. So that's why I joined up with them. Now, as far as what I'm going to talk to you about tonight, is we're facing a crisis. For me, personally, it doesn't matter who's elected here. It has to be Trump, or we're sunk. You kind of know that, I don't have to go into it. The other person is going to shred this Constitution. We're going to lose our freedoms here. So we really have to fight like dogs, at least the last couple of days. But beyond that, I'd like to start with this. My whole fight, in all the articles I wrote, was to try to understand how to use the Constitution as my sword. Not as a piece of paper, but as a reference point, a guideline on how to fight certain issues that would give us a victory, and also would show us the results that were predictable if we didn't follow this guideline. And you can read my articles, and you can see that it's been predicted very simply because we violated certain guidelines of our Constitution. So I'll start with this little insight. It's not the Clinton Foundation that we should be worried about. It's the declaration of war on the Constitution, her declaration of the United States of America, and its rule of law, our stance against absolute power and tyranny, that she's violating. That's the real issue with this election. It's not being brought up. With that, I'll explain what I mean. I'll read from something I wrote that's on my site. It has been said as we approach the selection of another commander-in-chief in the era of growing global instability, there does not exist a unifying consensus to clarify our foreign policy. Yet the guideline for a strong and resolute foreign policy has always been right under our noses. George Washington declared, "The Constitution is the guideline I will never abandon." While our domestic policy is designed to keep us free from the forces of tyranny from within, our foreign policy alerts the nations of the world who we are, what we stand for, as we protect our freedoms for those who promote oppression around the globe. Therefore, our foreign policy must reflect America's protocol, which is defined by our Constitution's stance against tyranny, its rule of law. This resolute rule not only secures our freedoms, but defines America's quest to eternally protect against all those who would release tyranny's deadly venom into the hearts of all humankind. Who dare turn their backs on our nation's sacred endeavor? Who dare seek victory to those who would destroy us and deny us our freedoms? Who will be left to keep the lamp of liberty lit from those who are determined to bring darkness to the world? Do we really want to trust the United Nations, an entity that honors secular and religious tyrannies as viable partners for peace? I only end by asking President Obama this about the deal. What deal were you fighting for? One where we will be ever freed from the world conflict through submission to tyrannical dictates, or one where we are forever freed from the chains of tyranny by confronting it at its source? America exists to triumph over tyranny, not pay tribute to it. With this in mind, I decided to launch a campaign called Redress of Grievances. In the First Amendment of the Constitution, the greatest amendment, because that's the first thing we amended to secure our nation, we had 4 things about not a religion for the state. In other words, no more state religion collecting taxes in the name of a greater good. The other one was freedom of the press. Third one was we could all assemble freely and protest. And the fourth, and the most important, a redress of grievances, just like our founders did to England. That is available to us. So I wrote a redress of grievances based on this fact. America is the beacon of freedom. Our troops are the guardians that protect this beacon. When our president sells out our troops in order to promote a political agenda that is in direct conflict with his oath of office to uphold the Constitution, we the people must stand our ground, plant our flag, and put everything aside to protect our heroic men and women of the military. Failure to do the right thing, which is standing firm in support of our troops, means we have succeeded in unraveling the moral fabric that binds us to our humanity. What kind of people turn their backs on those who willingly sacrifice their lives to protect our freedoms? What kind of commander-in-chief would place a target on the backs of his own troops as part of a negotiation with enemies who, according to their own constitution, have declared jihad against the Western civilization? If he himself is not an enemy of his own constitution, President Obama must be held accountable for these acts of treason, and now. We can't wait. Veterans of all walks of life have proven their allegiance to this country by taking an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic. In return for their dedicated service, millions of brave Americans and women have fallen in battlefields across the world, and those have returned with incurable battle scars have shamelessly received inadequate care by support of our government. This shameful administration is their legacy. It's a double whammy. First, we are allowing the return of $150 billion to an enemy which has already earmarked that money to purchase weapons and aimed at destroying American military worldwide. Can you imagine? The President of the United States of America has put a hit on our troops. He hired Iran as an assassin. That's what this is, because he wants to avoid a war. He thinks he can buy off a fascism. So he offered our boots as collateral. And we're standing here. And they're getting shot? No way. Then secondly, we're not taking adequate care of our military when they come home. So it's coming and going. They're getting it. Coming and going. While we may never be able to repay the debt we owe to our military, we must ensure they did not serve in vain. That is why we, the people, the recipients of their ballot, are duty-bound to consecrate their lives with our eternal pledge to protect the Constitution, the foundation upon which our free republic stands. Only then can we continue to enjoy their hard-won and our guaranteed freedoms. Is this how we honor them? Ceding victory to Iran without a fight, now the deal is done? We must not allow this treasonous deal continue without using everything in our power to derail it. Losing is not an option. Had George Washington and his troops not stood up to fight British tyranny, we would not be enjoying the freedoms we have today. By throwing up our hands and they simply accepting this double-crossing deal, it's as if Washington and his ragtag militia shed their blood in vain. Our founding fathers pledged their lives, their honor, their fortunes to establish this great nation. Now we must do the same. Join with us, and that's what we're doing. I've decided to go with the Marines. It's for fire for effect. And we decided to write an article of redress. This article of redress was delivered to the President of the United States of America. I'm going to read some of it. We're telling him, we have the right, we hold the purse strings here. We'll withhold our taxes. We're not going to fund your government. And how do you withhold your taxes? How crazy could we hold that? You don't pay your taxes. Claim 12 dependents. You don't have to pay until April. Where's the government going to get their money? So people say, no, I can't do that. But that's what our founders did. You're not going to get hurt. But Congress will only respond to pressure from us. I'm not waiting for any candidate to tell us, trust me, I'll tell you what we're going to do. When we face fascism, there is only one way to fight fascism. Unconditional surrender through a force that's more powerful than a demented ideals. We did it in World War II, we did it against Japan, we did it against Germany, and now we have a new enemy. And this enemy, Pat and I worked on, which I want to read to you who the new enemy is. It says here, remember, we the people hold the purse strings. It is our hard-earned tax dollars that pay the salaries of those we entrust to run our government. Why should we consent to fund our government when it aids and abets those who vow to destroy our freedoms and puts a gun in the back of our troops' head? Stopping the Iranian deal threat and removing the ultimate mass destruction known to man from getting into the hands of a heinous, tyrannical nation that openly threatens to destroy America is neither a democratic nor a Republican issue. Rather, it's a constitutional mandate. It's against our rule of law. The key to everything that I finally found after all these years is the rule of law. When the president puts his hand on the Constitution, he says, I pledge to defend myself from enemies, foreign and domestic. Well, I used to say, what the hell does that mean? It's just a piece of paper. And it bothered me growing up. What is it? What is it? What is it? And not until a couple of months ago that I finally understood, I guess by the grace of God, what it was. What he pledges, and what all presidents before him pledges, is he pledges to defend the Constitution stands against absolute power. It's rule of law that secures our freedoms. It's our stance against absolute power that secures the free markets around the world. It's our stance that gives us our prosperity, good or bad times. But once we give up this rule of law, once we don't defend it, we're going to inherit everything that we fought against since the birth of this nation. Some people say we shouldn't be the world's policemen. Well, guess what? The Islamic tyrannies, the secular tyrannies, that's the war we're fighting against. It's not just Islam. It's a war of dominions. In 2001, I first wrote The war, if you want to understand it, look at the people's constitutions of the nations they come from. In the Middle East, the Constitution gives allegiance to Allah over all your inalienable rights. You can't speak. You can't say anything. Well, we know about that. In Russia, the greater good, they do the same thing. Takes away all your freedoms. Well, let me tell you something. Their goal is to get rid of us. Well, if they're more proud of building tyrannies around the world, why are we not more proud of getting rid of them? Why isn't someone standing up as our president and saying, we do not take our marching orders from the United Nations? Who are the United Nations? A bunch of scoundrels, totalitarian scoundrels. And we now, with this deal, has put the Constitution under them. Transfer of power. Our foreign policy no longer stands for a rule of law because we gave victory to Iran and Islam over a rule of law and America. We gave in because we're afraid to stand up against tyranny. Because they convinced us, oh, we can't have war. We better not say anything. We have no right. You're damn straight we have a right. So now we're dying a death by 1,000 cuts. No one respects us. The world is leaving us. So, what is this all about? This is a redress of grievances and saying, get rid of it now. Congress, you failed us. President, you lied to us. He already said, I know the money will be earmarked to kill our troops. Can you imagine a president of the United States of America standing up and addressing this nation and saying, hey, listen, I made a good deal for us. They won't bother us, but I give money to kill our troops. And we all sat here. How about our troops? The people that you see me marching with into Trump Tower are decorated Marines. These are decorated Marines. Their valor is incredible, they told me. They're also injured. The guy was blind. We placed them in the middle of Trump Tower amongst crowds of people walking, and that's where they are. They're standing right there amongst you every day as you walk to work and wherever you go. So I'm asking for your support, to support this redress of grievances. Once we understand that we have the rule of law, then we understand who we are. Again, we stand against tyranny is the rule of law of our Constitution. It defines all the amendments of the Constitution. Checks and balances against absolute power. We have the greatest document of governance ever created in the world. That's why President George Washington, our founder, said, I use the Constitution as my only guideline. Why? Because we don't tolerate tyranny. That's why we're free. That's the only reason. We had religious tyranny. We broke from religious tyranny. It was our first freedom. People using God's name to deny us and collect taxes. That's a reality. That stance is, that's why we won't accept Sharia law. Sharia law is not an inalienable right. It's a challenge to our Constitution, our rule of law. Take away our individual rights and give it over to some greater good in the name of God or the state. We got the Constitution to protect the rights of the individuals from the tyranny of the state. And we got a lady in Hillary Clinton that is about to shred this Constitution. That when they made that deal. So the other thing I'm going to ask you is, with 14 days to go, why don't we make a commercial and say, take the gun out of our, what kind of foreign policy, and let that ring through this land. Because no one's saying anything. We're being misrepresented, and we're not talking. If we put such a thing, that you can't do that with our foreign policy, she's finished. She's dead in water. That's their foreign policy.
Why isn't anyone doing it?
Because no one believes in the rule of law. Because no one thought the Constitution and its rule of law. They thought about the Second Amendment. But what's the Second Amendment? It comes from the First Amendment. The rule of law. It all comes from there. Every amendment comes from there. No one can articulate among our people what this Constitution is, what is the purpose of our nation, so we can all proudly stand up and say to Russia, Iran, North Korea, we don't take marching orders from you, we give you the marching orders. We're here to conquer tyranny so the world can be in peace. And since the United States has been in business, in 233 years, the world is 66% transparent. How is that possible? It's because of our documents. We're the United Nations. You're looking at it. We came from everywhere.
So you're saying that no congressman, no senator
no.
cannot stand up and say what you're saying?
No, they haven't. If they did, and you knew it, you'd be fighting.
One did, this one.
I'm with you. So join together with us. Right now we got the Marines. I'm coming here for your support. Let's do something. The problem is we don't have the time. And this is the last thing I'm going to tell you. Iran and Russia have teamed together. They missed that all together. Secular tyrannies and religious tyrannies. They're the same DNA to challenge our freedoms in the world. They always will. And we're not doing anything. But Iran is about to cross a line that we never thought of. She's becoming an acceptable trading partner in the world. And once she does, we can't stop her. So we got to stop her now, and we got to stop her before this president gets in office, because it's happening now. That is the imminent threat. And Mark Levin, if you know who he is, just recently, it took him 8 years, Iran's the greatest threat we're faced. We better stop it now. He didn't get it. No one got it. Luckily, I got it. So I'm a Baji. I'm a warrior now. I won't shut up. Gotta do something. Yeah.
Two questions. First question is, what is exactly a redress of grievance?
Redress of, yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead, answer that and then.
A redress of grievance is you can go to the government and say, this is over. We're not going to follow this. You can.
So I understand that, and I agree with that.
Yes.
But what makes you think that an Obama or a Hillary, who took an oath to the Constitution, and basically they don't give a damn about the oath, they don't honor the oath, and they practically don't care about the Constitution. So what is that going to do for us? They're not going to care about a redress.
When George Washington went into battle, he never thought that. Neither do, one second, let me answer you. I don't think that. If enough people stand up, that's how it is. That's Providence is we can do.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm
can.
saying that that's rule of law, and we're dealing with people who don't give a damn about the rule.
The rule of law dealing with people that don't give a damn is to stand up to their face and threaten them with something they can't stop. We have the power of the purse. Enough people stand up in this country, they can't do anything. It's we the people. It's not them the people. The Constitution was written for us. And the founding fathers left us an escape hatch. If we ever have a president that would slander and go against this rule of
To
law.
believe that they're not going to be too impressed about the power of the purse. I think they're going to be more impressed of the power of a musket pointed at them.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Money
You're
talk.
wasting your time. You can get the musket together if they never listen. But up until that time, we have the power of the purse, and we have the power of the Constitution, the rule of law. We must get people educated.
And they have been practicing the law of rule.
We got to get people educated. No one knows what the Constitution is, so you don't know what you're fighting for. When you look
You
at the
can read it
reading,
in 20 minutes.
Yeah, but we're populating this country with people who don't care about
I don't care if they
way of
care.
life.
My fight is not whether they care.
But if
The
you
fight
don't
is
pay
what-
your taxes, if we in this room don't pay our taxes, how is that really gonna help?
How about if
need
you-
masses
how-
of people not paying
You're
their
right,
taxes.
so where do you start? You wait for the millions of people?
Stan.
You start now.
Stan, wait a
Yeah.
minute.
There's only two people who can solve it.
We
You
have
and
15
you.
days.
And you.
Excuse
and
me,
you.
you don't have 15 days, you got 3 months.
Stanley,
I don't care who's elected, Iran's about to cross the line.
may I have the floor for a minute?
Yeah.
We've discussed this at the West End Club, we've discussed it between you and I for days and hours. What it is a ceremonial protest. It is true that individual income taxes, or an individual's decision to withhold the payment of taxes, in and of itself is not a mortal wound to a government that can print money. What he's talking about is along the lines of civil disobedience or those kinds of things that civil rights lawyers know you can do, and it's legal. What he forgot to tell you in all his excitement was that his proposal is not to pay your quarterlies until April 15th, when your income taxes are regularly due. So that the government...
You're paying the taxes, but you're paying at a complimented moment.
Yes.
Withhold the money for 364 days and give it to them on the 365th day.
If you choose to.
Right.
Well, unless you're okay with jail.
It's up to you.
Unless you're okay with jail.
Well, let me tell you what Mr. West says. He's wearing Mr. West. And let me tell you what some of the generals say about this grassroots movement. I'm not alone here. I didn't make this thing up. So I just, in closing, I want to read what they said. Number one.
Stanley, question?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I have a question. Until I started reading this, I was under the impression, and I think you said that in fact, Obama gave $150 billion of our money to Iraq, or to Iran.
Not all money, confiscated.
Well, I understand, so that's the difference. It was frozen, assets that were frozen here, probably in banks and so on and so forth, and he released that money.
Yes.
No, I don't agree with that, but it's a different context, you know. I think a lot of people are going around thinking that our taxpayer money went over there, and that's not fact.
I'm going to answer your question.
Well, it's not really a question,
No, but
it's
you
clarification.
brought up a great point because it's on TV. A general got on TV last night and said, "What's the big deal? We're returning money that was theirs." You know what the big deal is? When you confiscate money from a criminal enterprise like mafia or something like that, you return them the money if they promise not to kill us again. Of course not. It's a joke. We return money confiscated because terrorist activities to another thing, what Mr. West says, who you follow, and you have his tag on you, a button, great man, Mr. West.
Alan West?
Alan West. First of all, Larry Kalman, he's the founder of Judicial Watch. I think you know who they are. This is what it says. It's obvious our nation has reached a crossroad. Not only is the Constitution being threatened to be usurped from within, but we are under an imminent threat from Iran. And he said, this is what he said, I don't know if we can say how can a Muslim king, but he calls him a Muslim king. But who is, I'll call him the president,
Answer him or read the question.
be legally removed from office, where he does even more irreparable damage in the next 6 months of his presidency. What would our founding fathers have done under such dire circumstances? Well, they just told us what we can do. Here's what Alan West says. This is Alan West. I'll read the letter and then I'm finished. I wrote to the preface of the letter, our founding fathers pledged their lives, their sacred honor, and their fortunes to establish this great nation. Now we must do the same. Join us as we continue their fight against those who do not hold the Constitution as their beacon, nor respect those who fight for it. Alan West. We who have served in uniform took an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and bear truth, faith, and allegiance to the same. Those who truly believe in and live this oath realize there is no statute of limitations on a commitment to our beloved republic. True military servants will stand guard for America as long as there is a breath in their lungs. While in uniform, we know we must follow the orders of superiors as long as they do not violate any moral standard. However, once out of uniform, we have more freedoms to express our thoughts, perspectives, and insights. Towards that end, 2 retired U.S. generals, Army General Paul E. Valley and Air Force Brigadier General Charles Jones, have created a citizens commission called America's Provisional Leadership. General Valley has already called for the resignation of President Obama, Vice President Biden, and senior congressional leadership. In calling for the forced resignations of Obama and leadership, Valley outlined suggestions for nationwide rallies and said a peaceful civil uprising is still not out of the question. Our federal government continues down the path of destroying America. Americans must now stand up and put Americans back on the right track. He ends it by saying, I'm proud to know we have a military leaders who still seek the honor to our republic and advance ensuring new birth of freedom is not lost in future generations. I know McValley very well, and he's an impeccable Army leader. I salute you, sir, and over Hardy Airport. He said, do you think there's a groundswell building in America? 3 years ago. 3 years ago. Well, there's a groundswell building. We can't wait again. Iran is about to become an established trading partner in the world with banks. To attack them after that could be a conflict we don't want. We better do it now. And we better put the feet on the fire of our Congress. You're traitors. You gave us a deal. Put guns on the back of our troops, sold out our Constitution, our rule of law, and made us laughing stocks in the world. No one will trust us again. Tyranny will be the global protector now. That's the new one. So please support us.
And you know what happens, may I? You know what happens next, folks? Let me tell you what happens. You know what an oil bourse is? B-O-U-R-S-E, ever heard the word?
Mhm.
Oil is still, for whatever reason, still being traded in dollars. Because foolish politicians, first of all, gave away our gold standard, gave away our silver standard, and what backs your dollar today? There's dollars in those paper, worthless paper in your wallet. Gallons of oil, barrels of oil. The move, and it's going to happen, and it's going to happen right away, is your dollar is going to become totally worthless when they start trading oil in reals, in Saudi currency, in Iranian currency, whatever, and take away the dollar. What's your dollar worth?
And by the way, the only reason our dollar is worth anything is people believe that we keep the life
Faith in this country.
of freedom open and the free markets alive. Once they no longer believe we can do it, your dollar's worthless. Finish.
Not believing in it now anyway.
We still got a shot. The door ain't closed. Depends if you understand.
Before there's tyranny outside, there'll be tyranny inside. There'll be a civil war within.
I'm not worried about the Civil War. Let it come if it comes. Right now, we have to do what we can. This is the battle in front of us.
Yeah.
I'm not jumping to another battlefield that doesn't exist. You fight in this battlefield, then you go to the next one. But we have to concentrate 4 months before the president takes office. Iran's going to cross that line. We got to stop them from becoming a natural trading partner in the world.
Now, are you a representative of Colonel West?
No, I represent the Fire for Effect, the Marines,
Okay.
that group.
So now, how will the advertising be implemented? What type of advertising?
Well, he's starting with YouTube. He's starting there, and then I'm going out and talking, and he's going out and talking. And we're hoping groups like this will have a conference call getting bigger and bigger, that we can put together something about this, that Mrs. Clinton and the rest have put a gun to the back of our troops. That's their foreign policy. How could they be in the White House? They violated our constitutions and rule of law. That's got to get out. That will stop her. That will give Trump the victory in the, I'll tell you, if Trump doesn't want to support the rule of law, we'll get rid of him.
I agree with that.
Do you have the money to put out an ad?
Not yet. I'm asking if we can all get together and see what we can do.
Is there any money in the pot?
Not yet. I just started. But
But
listen.
you only have 14 days to get this ad out there to
Whatever.
turn them away from her.
Well, the only thing I can do is do my best in God's providence. Someone gets us money, and we do it and determine people, because this is our last shot.
You better put in the Wall Street Journal, because no other paper's gonna carry it.
I don't know, Wall Street Journal, maybe some, I gave this to Fox News, they got this paper, all the articles.
They just fired the
Up to
one guy who done
them,
your
but it's
job.
up to us. We gotta start somewhere, folks.
You have to get somebody to put it on Facebook.
Roger
too.
rails.
Well, if anyone that wants to help, please see me after the meeting, and I'll, let's see what we can do. All right, if you think it's
You
worth it.
think Fox News is right of center?
I don't care what Fox News is. I wanna know if Fox News defends the Constitution or not, and they haven't said anything about America and Iran and its threat. Forget about it. They never said we're the leaders of the world. We don't stand, we give them watching. We don't take orders from the UN. You don't hear any candidate saying anything. It's shameful.
Stanley, how many people are in fire for effect?
They're in 32 different states. 32 different states.
What is
They
it
wanna
called?
have a huge conference call and a bigger meeting.
Fire for what?
Fire for Effect.
Operation.
Operation Fire for Effect. These are, look, the picture you have is that guy standing there for 3 hours straight with a cane at attention, a disabled vet. And he would not leave until Trump people came down. That's that guy. So I said, Jimmy, he said, look, I'd rather die standing on my feet than kneeling on my knees. That's him. He will not give up. He's not gonna give up.
Is Boynton part of this?
Excuse me.
I guess he's General Boynton, Jerry Boynton. Boynton, is he part of this thing?
We're contacting him because they all gave up. They just quit. Because they didn't know about the rule of law. They didn't base it on the Constitution. They never mentioned what binds us to our humanity, what this country stands for. No one has mentioned that our mission in the world is to rid the world of tyranny and oppression. The countries who are fighting, it's a religious thing. They embrace tyranny. What's tyranny? It's man subjugating people to them. That's the darkness. That's the same biblical thing as man standing against God. Tyranny. I'll tell you what to do. You're looking at it. Who are we? We're the ones that saying, we stand to protect the individual from tyranny. That's why this is a religious nation. That's the real reason, because we stand against tyranny. That's a biblical stand. And they're the ones. George Washington, at the time he was going to fight, took his Bible, put it in his pocket, took his gun out, and went to protect our freedoms. We should do the same. We can't use it with a gun, but we certainly can protect our rule of law and our Constitution against this crazy thing with our troops and a gun on their back. We got to take the gun off their back.
Actually, I think our forefathers were arguing that very point you said.
I'm sure they will.
I'm already at the second battlefield. I mean, I'll oppose you.
If we get there,
I'll support you in this battle
Guess
that you're
what?
doing, but
Guess
I'm already
what?
in the other battle.
if we get there,
I'm thinking the other battle's coming first.
it's not coming first. We got to try to prevent it. We got children here. We can't let that happen. So
We're dealing with people who don't care about the Constitution.
Exactly, there's not enough people that are going to
Good,
care.
then make yourself one that does.
Mhm.
Okay, start with yourself.
Oh, I'm with you.
Oh, then let's go.
I'm with you.
I don't care about the rest. Doesn't matter to me. When George Washington went into battle,
I'm tired of standing alone. I stand
you're
alone.
not standing
a lot.
alone. I'm here and we're starting. When George Washington went into battle, he go, gee whiz, who's with me here? No one. No one believes me. That's what he faced. So what did he do? He picked a fight. He went across the lines, went across Hudson River up there. British were sleeping. Bam! He got him. They didn't expect it. We're going to do a sneak attack too. We have a sword, the rule of law. We're going to weld it. We got to weld it good. Then, if no one listens, then we do the next. Then we move in another way. But until that day, we have to try this way. We have no other choice. So let's make some noise.
Yes.
Don't let Trump lose it. But then again, make sure we hold Trump's feet
He
to
ain't
the
a savior.
fire.
He's not a savior either, and he's not.
I'm not looking for any saviors. I'm looking to defend the
Just not to get hurt.
Constitution.
He's just not Hillary.
I don't know what he
Just
is.
not-
I don't really care. Thank you.
Great job.
I'll give you my.
It was a great job, Stan, we appreciate it.